Hey everyone, it's Pam and I'm here with my monthly update video letting you know everything that I was up to in the month of April. So April was a really great month for the channel. My Castlevania Bloodlines video did very well. The algorithm picked it up and shared it with people, meaning that a whole bunch of my other videos also got viewed a lot more as well. So if you're new to the channel, hi, welcome. I hit 60,000 subscribers last month, which was pretty exciting. And overall, I'm just happy with my videos so far this year. I like sort of discovering more about the Genesis, doing like the occasional hardware. I really liked doing that NES rankings video, and that's a series I would like to continue. If you have any suggestions for me on other sort of rankings I should do, please leave them in the comments. The other thing I did this month was try my hand at streaming. I've streamed once or twice in the past, almost always with friends as opposed to something I'd sit down and try to do myself. And the first stream was actually pretty good. I had a good audience, the chat was really great. I played through some of my favorite NES games. I did a playthrough of Felix in its entirety. I did Adventures in the Magic Kingdom, and then I did Gun-Knack just as far as I could go on one credit, which I was actually really happy with. I got to like stage 6, which I think is the best I've done, which is surprising that I managed to do it on camera because I thought for sure I would play worse on camera. But that was a lot of fun, and then I tried it again the following week and I had all kinds of technical issues. And as soon as I have any technical issues, my desire to do something just like plummets. So right now I'm feeling pretty down on streaming, like weighing my hatred of troubleshooting computer issues with my enjoyment from streaming. It's just like, so I don't know. I don't want to spend the time to learn how to adjust my settings or what's going wrong. And I do need a computer, a new computer at some point. My CPU is pretty old and out of date. So maybe when I purchase a new one at some point, I'll give it a try. And if it magically fixes all my problems, I'll try streaming again. But for now, I think that was just a little experiment that I don't plan on continuing for the near future, at least. So yeah, it was cool to try it out though, and I really appreciate everyone who came to watch. The chat was really, really good. Like it was a fun time, but I don't think I have the streaming personality. I don't like people watching me fail and do poorly at video games. So like when I'm doing well, I'm like, oh, okay, this is fun. Then as soon as I start doing poorly, I just get mad and focus on the game and don't pay any attention to the chat, which I'm sure isn't very exciting for anyone. So yeah, we'll see about streaming sometime in the future, but for now, I think I'm done with that little experiment. So I'm gonna get back into doing monthly shout-outs, and my shout-out for this month is Niche Plays. This is a newer channel. It's only been around for a few months and only has, I think, less than 10 videos at this point. But they're really excellent videos. I first discovered his channel when he did a video on if Felix the Cat still holds up, and it was a really fantastic video. He's covered a bunch of different older games, Vector Man, Dreams into Nights. I think he literally just put one up on Jackie Chan's Stunt Master as I am recording this video. And they're all good. They're around 10 to 15 minutes, an in-depth look at what makes them good or what makes them sort of age a little more poorly than you'd like. And even though this channel only has a handful of videos up, I'm pretty sure the creator must do video creation for a living or professionally or something, because the quality of like the scripts and the editing and the audio are all just like top tier. Like it definitely doesn't seem like a beginner at this. So if you're interested in a variety of older games and the question of whether or not they still hold up to be played today, then go and give Niche Plays a subscribe. Alright, now we will move on to pickups, and I have calmed down slightly from how many I had last month, but there are still a fair number of things that I got in April. First of all, I've been continuing my little 360 shoot 'em up collection, so I picked up Raiden 4, I'm pretty sure I've played through this before, but I just wanted to have it in the collection. These stickers are so stuck on here. It has both the game disc and then it's also got the soundtrack on CD. Another one I got is a Japanese import. This is called Mushihimesama? Mushihimesama, something like that. My Japanese is terrible, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. This is a cave shooter. It's gorgeous. You play what I assume are little fairies, and it's like a very nature themed. So your enemies are sort of bugs who appear very large to you, and it's really pretty to look at. Also, my friend Travis from Nest Friend recently did a video on Air Fortress on NES, and this is one that I wasn't familiar with, but based on his review, I decided to go out and pick it up. It's a cheap one, it only cost me $10, and it does my favorite thing for NES games, which is combine genres, so it's like part shooter, part platformer, I think. So it just looked like a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to trying it out, and also go check out the review on it if you want to know more. So I've been getting more into the Switch as well, and I picked up a good handful of Switch games. I mostly focus on the more limited print sort of indie ones, like I don't have many sort of first-party Nintendo games or anything like that, but I ordered a couple from Super Rare, which is a really cool company that releases a limited run of 3,000 copies of a game every 3 weeks. So the games I picked up were Little Inferno, which is a game I love. It's almost like one of those waiting and clicking games, but you just sit in front of this little fireplace and you order toys from a catalog and then you burn the toys in the fireplace. And honestly, that's all I need to be amused. And there's little sort of word puzzles where it'll give you like a hint and you have to decide which things you need to burn together to fulfill the hint. I really like the Super Rare stuff because they come with little booklets. They're not necessarily manuals, but they just have, you know, some art or some story about the game, which is really cool. I actually played through this in its entirety since I got it. And then the second one is Ita, which is like I think it's like a twin stick bullet hell as far as I know. And yeah, you're a girl, boy, I don't know what you are, but you have a cat who takes you on a journey, and I'm looking forward to playing this. Haven't tried it yet. The other things I got, one of my friends was selling off his limited run collection, so I picked up a few things from him. The first is Transistor, which is a game I've played. I have it on PS4 digitally, but I don't have a PS4 or a PS5. I only have a PS2, so I have no access to this game anymore. This is by Super Giant, and you know I love their music and their art. And even though the actual gameplay of this one isn't my favorite, it's sort of like a turn-based RPG kind of, the story and the aesthetic is just beautiful, and I do want to play this again at some point. And the other one I got is Battle Chef Brigade, which combines sort of like a match 3 puzzle game with some combat fighting monsters to get ingredients, and you're cooking dishes and battling chefs and things, which is just sounds very cool. I tried it for like 20 minutes or so. Seems like a lot of fun. Also seems like one that I would play in handheld mode, which I don't tend to do. Oh, that reminds me of another pickup I don't have with me. But continuing on with the Switch games, Wallachia Reign of Dracula is something very much inspired by Castlevania games. You play a woman who is an archer and she can summon friends to help her on her way. I've played a little bit of this. The animations and things are a little rough, but the gameplay is pretty fun. I only played through the first level so far, so I won't talk too much about it yet. I also bought Cyvaria Delta, which is another shooter. I haven't tried this yet. I also got Ghost 1.0, which is a Metroidvania I've heard a few people talk about on the Metroidvania subreddit, so I decided to pick this up. I actually didn't even know that it was on console, so I saw this and I was like, oh, I didn't know this existed, so I could not help myself. And then the other thing I got is Dead Cells, which again, I've played this in its entirety, or at least a first run through on Xbox, but Xbox doesn't have a physical edition, and they have added a lot of content to the game since I played it, so I might want to give it another shot at some point. So the other thing that I remembered that I bought was the Hori Split Pro controller for the Switch. I hate Joy-Cons with a fiery passion. I hate tiny little buttons, and I think their analog sticks are just garbage. So this, even though it makes the Switch look rather bulky and ridiculous, is a much more comfortable way that will actually make me occasionally use the Switch as a handheld, which is nice because sometimes I want to like have something on TV and just play a mindless game on handheld. So this is much better. The sticks are better, the buttons are better. I enjoy it. I do recommend it if you have the same problem that I do. This is one of those things that just makes me so mad that Nintendo does. Like, the Switch is a cool console, but in order to make it into something I actually want to play, I had to spend like, what, $180 on a Pro controller and these things? Like, it should just be comfortable to play when it comes out, like out of the box. So it's just a little pet peeve of mine with Nintendo. Pam's complaining about Nintendo again, what a surprise. Something else I got, I wasn't planning on this, but I didn't think these were ever going to be restocked, and then I got an email saying, oh, the Analog Super NT, back in stock. So I bought one. It's not in here, it's over here. It's just this beautiful little console that plays Super Nintendo games beautifully. It makes them all digital HDMI output. It plays off the original cartridges. It can also use flash cartridges if you want to use that. Everything just looks really, really great. You can use your original controllers with it if you want. I've been playing through Donkey Kong Country since I got this, and yeah, I really like it. Looks beautiful. I do really want to go and get one of those Super Nintendo flash cards, which I can't remember the name of. It's like FX something Pro or something. But for now I have this. It came with a director's cut of Super Turrican already on there, and it even came with the box for it, which is kind of cool. So yeah, seems like I'm upgrading a lot of the ways that I play retro games lately, which is neat, and I just love this. Like, it's so much nicer than an actual Super Nintendo. Maybe I'm just kind of boring, but I like things to be just like functional. Like, I'd much rather have the Xbox Series X just black box than that awful giant PlayStation thing. Same as I like this more than an actual Super Nintendo. So yeah, this was a surprise to get, but I'm happy I have it. And lastly, this is probably the thing I'm most excited about. I've been waiting a few months since I ordered it. It is the soundtrack to Paradise Killer. Paradise Killer was my favorite game of last year, and the soundtrack is just top notch. It's this wonderful, wonderful vaporwave. It's just like so like peppy and energetic, but at the same time like super chill. It's just the perfect music to just like work to or like put on when I'm doing stuff around the house. It's just excellent. It's a great game. It's a great soundtrack. I've been spinning it pretty consistently since I got it, and it came with, well, first I'll show you the actual vinyl. One is pink and one is blue, which is pretty cool. I think it also came with a big old poster. Let's get this in here the right way. I'm having troubles. Came with this poster of this big titty goat lady, Crimzon. Yeah, I really love this soundtrack. I have to complain a tiny bit about the design of the cover. I think the artwork is nice, like the overall design is really nice. I don't love how they've portrayed Lady Love Dies, who's the character you play. You can kind of see in here, get closer, like she's a buxom lady. She's got big boobs, she's got like thick thighs, and then here she kind of just looks like a skinny anime chick, which I don't like. Like, I wish she looked more like she does in the game. But other than that, like, beautiful soundtrack. So happy that this finally came. We have a visitor. Oh, he doesn't want to visit, maybe. Hi. Alright, so now I'm gonna get on to what I've been playing, and I played a lot in April, a lot of shorter games especially, so I've got a number of games to talk about. First of all, I think I forgot to talk about this last month. I played a game called Angerforce Reloaded. Angerforce Reloaded, I think. It is a shoot 'em up, a newer one. It is out on modern consoles. I got it on Xbox, and honestly, it's not that well optimized for Xbox. I'm not sure about other consoles. Like, the loading times are pretty ridiculous considering what kind of game it is, and it shouldn't be an intensive game for a Series X to run. But other than that, I really liked it. It's the kind of shooter where you play it over and over, and as you play, you get like talent points, and you can like level up your skills and abilities to eventually start making the game easier for yourself. There's 4 different characters for you to play as, and all of them have sort of different shooting abilities in order to take out enemies. And I thought it was really good. Other than the bugs, which did suck, the gameplay was fun. It was like challenging, but not too challenging. You go through as like novice mode, and then regular mode into hard mode, and then expert mode, sort of opening them up as you beat the last one. And I had a lot of fun with it. Just really was marred by some bugs, including not saving my progress, so I sometimes had to play through an entire difficulty again in order to open up the next one, which really sucked. But I think it plays better on PC. I haven't seen as many complaints about it there, but it was pretty cool. I'm gonna just keep on with the shooters since I played a bunch of them. Another one that I played is called Crimzon Clover World Ignition. I found a Steam curator group that recommends shoot 'em ups or indie games you can play in Tate mode on your vertical monitor like I've got back there. So I bought Crimzon Clover, and it's very cool. Like, you could definitely mistake it for a game that was created by Cave, but it was not developed by Cave. It's just a really bright, fun, colorful bullet hell shooter. I didn't find it got as crazy as some bullet hells I've played before, but it was still quite challenging. It does have unlimited continues, so you can still make it through, but I think I just played on novice mode so far, and I played through the whole thing of that, and it was very enjoyable, lots of fun, good soundtrack, very colorful, as I said. I also played through a little shooter called Gore, and this is a little indie game. I played it on Xbox, and at first I wasn't all that keen on it. It has a sort of horror style, but like it's very sort of low res. Like, it's very simple backgrounds and things. The backgrounds don't even change as you go from level to level. There's a variety of them, and you can actually pick the background you want to see the whole time, but it basically stays the same. It's just sort of the enemies and the patterns that they come in at you that changes things up. But as I played it more, I started enjoying it more. It's another one where you get skill points and you can upgrade your ships or your power or your speed and things in order to make the game a little more easier as you go. And I did end up quite enjoying it. I'd say I did basically everything there is to do. At least I got all the achievements for it in about an hour and a half. So it's not one that I got a ton of playtime out of, but I did end up quite enjoying it by the end. It's got a neat mechanic where you can sort of like bomb all the enemies near you if you're not shooting for a while. And it's a lot more about avoiding things than taking things out in a lot of cases. And I really warmed up to it after a little bit. So if you're looking for just a very sort of short, relatively easily to complete shooter, Gore is a good one. And lastly, as soon as I got this, I played through Mushihimesama, and this was very good, if very difficult. Cave always makes great shooters, but I was looking on Reddit and people were asking like what's a good starting shooter to get into, and a number of people recommended this, saying that it was challenging but not overwhelming, and I'm questioning if I played the same game, because while it starts out fairly doable, by the last levels of this game, I was completely overwhelmed. Like, I didn't even know where my ship was on the screen a lot of the time. There's just so many bullets and so many enemies coming at you. Again, you can have unlimited continues, so you can definitely get through the whole game, but the last 2 stages, I must have used 9 continues on each of them. Like, it was absolutely nuts. So I don't know that this is an easier one to get into. It's a beautiful game. You play, I think you're like a little fairy, and it's all nature themed, so you're fighting giant bugs and things, and it looks really great, but I found it to be incredibly difficult and very overwhelming at times. So the next game I played is called Genesis Noir, and this is a new one. I think it just came out in April, and it got added to Game Pass immediately. And I would call this an art game. It's very sort of conceptual, and as like an audio-visual experience, it's very cool, but as a game, I wasn't very impressed at all. It has a really interesting story where you're playing, I'm not exactly sure what you are. It has like a detective vibe to it, although I'm not sure if you're actually a detective. And the woman you're in love with is shot, and this sort of correlates to the Big Bang of the universe, the like gun going off, and it's a really cool way to tie things together. And as you're going through sort of solving the mystery, trying to prevent her from being shot, you're also going through from the beginning of the universe, sort of through time. So it's a really cool concept. But when it comes down to playing the game, it's mostly just strange little vignettes where, I don't know, you're like spreading seeds or you're connecting stars. And I found a lot of the time, I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be doing. Like, I would just sort of wiggle the D-pad around and push a bunch of buttons until the game would move on to the next segment. Like, nothing felt, with some exceptions, nothing felt very intentional. It was just sort of like, just like waggle around the controller and then eventually you'll get to the next segment. So I didn't really like playing the game, even though there was some segments of the game that were like very impressive to behold. But I just, it was kind of a strange one, which works on some levels, but just really doesn't work on other levels. Another game I played was Whispers of a Machine, which is an adventure game in the style of like classic pixelated point-and-click adventure games. It also tosses in some RPG elements in there, which I really liked. You play a cybernetically enhanced detective, and you get called to investigate a murder in a small town. And through the investigation, you uncover a conspiracy. There's like forbidden technology in this world, and some people are trying to bring it back to life, and others are trying to keep it repressed. And I really, really liked this. It was a very cool detective game. You've got these enhancements, so you can use abilities like extra strength or like see other people's biometric functions to see like if they're telling a lie or if they're like really uncomfortable with the line of questioning you're doing. And it's really interesting. You have options in how you react to people and the way you go down the game. Like, you can be very practical or you can be very empathetic. And depending on how you're playing, it opens up different abilities for you later on. So there's some abilities that I saw in my playthrough that someone else wouldn't have seen if they were playing the game differently than me. So it does offer a little bit of replayability there if you want to see what kind of abilities you can get. And depending on the abilities, that impacts how you solve puzzles throughout the game. And I thought it was really good. The voice acting is great, the dialogue and the writing is all really interesting, and I would say it's definitely up there for modern point-and-click adventures. So if you are looking for a new one, the closest thing I would compare it to is actually Unavowed, although Unavowed was a little more sprawling. But yeah, very good adventure game. I highly recommend this one. A game that I've been working on for a couple months on Switch is Finding Teddy 2, which is a Metroidvania style game. You play a young girl whose teddy bear has been sort of kidnapped by, I think, like the king of some other kingdom or something like that. I actually didn't really pay that much attention to the story, but you have to go find your teddy bear through a series of different worlds. And it's interesting because you use music in order to unlock pathways. So you have a certain 12 runes or something that you can learn throughout the game. It's kind of like Ocarina of Time in that you're playing music to open things or defeat enemies and things like that. So as you get these runes, you sort of develop a dictionary of terms in order to interact with the world. So you're doing the regular platforming and combat and things, but you'll come across a door that's frozen shut, and once you learn the rune, you can cast a spell and melt the ice away to go through that door. So that's sort of how the ability gating is done in the game, and it was a really interesting concept. There are some ways that it didn't work for me as well, like there's the secrets of the game. You hear 3 or 4 tones and you have to just play the tones, and I'm totally tone deaf, so I just completely miss out on those. But to play just the actual game, you don't need any musical knowledge. And it was really fun. It was a very sort of endearing kind of game, lots of different environments to make your way through. And I think it was maybe around 15 or 20 hours long, so a bit on the longer side, but really, really good and a bit different than any other Metroidvania I've played. And then I played another Metroidvania, which is called Sheepo, and I'm pretty sure the developer gave me a key to this a while back. It just took me a while to get to it because I don't love playing those kind of games on PC, and as of now, it's only on PC. But I finally just, hooked up my controller and gave it a playthrough, and it was really, really adorable and very enjoyable. It's sort of a non-violent Metroidvania, which is something I've kind of been looking for. And you play this sheep creature and you go to this new planet, and you need to catalog the species that are on the planet by getting one of each of their eggs so that you can sort of preserve their species. And it's very sort of weightless feeling, but it kind of makes sense. It seems like a sort of low gravity situation. You're just sort of jumping and just double jumping around. The thing is that when you get an egg of a certain species, then you can transform yourself into that species, and then each of them has a different talent you can use. Like one can burrow underground, and one can fly, and one can launch itself using these little things that you see all over the world. And it was just really adorable and cute. It has a nice little story, and you find characters that are very amusing, but at the same time, the dialogue and the story never overtake things, and it never feels like you're waiting on a cutscene to get back to playing the game. I really liked it. It's not overly long, maybe 4 or 5 hours long, and it was just really good. I'm glad I finally played it. And if you're looking for something, maybe a little overlooked that you haven't heard of yet, and you like Metroidvanias, and especially want to see something that's non-violent. Oh, I should talk about how it's non-violent. You're not shooting anything, you're not jumping on anything's head. The challenge is definitely in the platforming, but there are bosses in it, and the bosses are mainly about avoiding damage or getting them to run into a wall to stun themselves, or getting a rock to fall on them. So you're not killing anything or doing any violence, but you're sort of incapacitating these bosses when you fight them, and it is more about just avoiding taking damage yourself, and it's just really cool. Yeah, highly recommend that one. So this month I was really looking for a sort of resource management survival game. I wanted to play something like a Frostpunk or a Darkest Dungeon, or a Dead in Bermuda, like one of those games that I can just get lost in. The problem is I think I've played almost all of them. I asked for recommendations and most of them were either like not the type of game I wanted to play or things that I've already played before. So this game Ashwalkers came out just this month and it's interesting. It's like a survival game. You are a party of 4 people in an apocalypse and you're going out to find this place called the Dome of Domes where your people have a chance to survive from the awful conditions around you. So you're just you're actually controlling the characters, sort of walking in third person through these environments, and as you go, you can find resources, you can find like food and wood to make fires and things like that, and then you're having encounters as you go through. So it might be a combat encounter, or it might be meeting other people and having a chance to like either talk with them or try to become allies or attack them. And so you're basically just making those kind of decisions as you go. You have to camp every once in a while to sleep and get rid of your tiredness and to eat and hopefully raise morale by letting your characters talk to one another. And overall, I enjoyed it. It was on the slower side and it's about 2 hours long. My biggest problem was that it was too easy. As you're going through, you're presented with these options, and every time I was like, well, this is clearly the best option, like why would you do anything else? And the game sort of reinforced my thought that I was making the best options by always making sure I had enough supplies and making none of my characters die. I got to the end without all that much trouble at all, so it's one of those games where there's like 32 endings or something, so you're supposed to replay it. I don't really feel the need to replay it because I got what I think is probably the best ending without much trouble on my part. Like, I could play it again and just be super aggro and fight everything in front of me, which would probably make things go worse, but why would I play it like that? I'm not really sure. So Ashwalkers was good. It was the kind of game I wanted, even if it wasn't very punishing, at least the way that I played the game. So it was an interesting one. And I think that's everything. So that's what I was doing this past April. Leave me a comment, let me know any particularly interesting games that you played or things that you picked up. Let me know your thoughts on anything I talked about here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. And now the sirens are going off. On your way out, don't forget to go play a visit to Niche Plays. You can also check out another one of my videos if you like. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.